I think the thing that Trump understands is that the Middle East is going to be key to his legacy no matter what. Like, we have Israel and Hamas going to war. One of the things Trump has repeatedly mentioned these first couple of days is how he helped broker the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook. We talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by national political correspondent Mabinty Quarshie. Mabinty, President Trump is back. There's been an awful lot going on since he's been sworn in. He got off to a pretty quick start. What are some of the highlights for you of the first days of the second Trump administration?
He's done a lot, and it's only been like 3 full days at this point. Chief among them is that he kicked off the second administration by rescinding 78 of Biden's executive actions. So he wanted it to be very clear to the American public, the Biden administration is out and done with. We have a new chief in town. Some of the things that he's done, he's fulfilled some campaign promises. He declared a national emergency at the southern border. He went right for it and signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship. Obviously, several, Democratic AGs and immigrant groups sued him over it.
Sure.
But again, he did say he was going to do this, fulfilled a campaign promise. For the youth, he gave TikTok a 75-day extension because TikTok was supposed to shut down on January 19th, one day before he was inaugurated. But on Monday, January 20th, Trump signs that executive order giving them 75 days to either divest from ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, or they shut down. So that's good for the youth because they were kind of freaking out before he got inaugurated.
And Trump has, when he introduced his son Barron at the post-inaugural rally, he mentioned that Barron had found all of these podcasts and social media things for him to appear on, and Trump did a lot of that during the campaign.
He even joked he might put TikTok on his phone. I don't think he was being honest about that.
I'm not sure they'll like that on the national security team, but his official phone at least.
Exactly. And that's not the only thing Trump has done. He also announced a $500 billion private sector investment into AI. He did that at the White House, where he had Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI, the CEOs of these companies, with him to announce that. He also announced that Saudi Arabia is going to be investing $600 billion in our economy. So Trump is making it very clear that the 4 years he wasn't in power were not wasted. He was planning his comeback, and he was ready to kick off from day one.
You've written a story about Trump's relationship with the Saudis. Obviously, Trump, before he was in politics, had pretty extensive business dealings all over the world.
Yeah. So the thing I find interesting is the first foreign call that Trump did of his second administration was to Saudi Arabia. And I think this builds on the work he did in the Middle East during his first administration. His first international trip was also to Saudi Arabia. One of his proudest accomplishments was the Abraham Accords, establishing diplomatic relations between Israel, United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. Excuse me for mispronouncing that. And that's in contrast to Biden, right? Like Biden's first international call when he became president back in 2021, that was to Canada, which is not Saudi Arabia, that's not the Middle East. But I think the thing that Trump understands is that the Middle East is going to be key to his legacy no matter what. Like, we have Israel and Hamas going to war. One of the things Trump has repeatedly mentioned these first couple of days is how he helped broker the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Obviously, oil, gas prices, big deal for us. And so having a good relationship with Saudi Arabia is helpful. When he was speaking to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, he told them, bring those oil prices down.
Right.
So, Trump is using that bully pit to, I should say bully pulpit.
Yes, a bully pit, that's fine.
But he's using that loud microphone to signal to the world that he's willing to work with Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia, and he understands that he's doing what he can to, help bring an end to the Israel-Hamas war and the Russia-Ukraine war. I think something that was interesting this week is that Trump said he'd be willing to sanction Russia if it doesn't come to the negotiating table to help end this war, which is, I was a little surprised by that, but I do think it signals his seriousness about making sure these crises that have engulfed the Biden administration doesn't engulf his administration.
And another contrast with Biden is, and microphones is he's talking a lot to the press, and that's why we know a lot of these things that
Yeah.
he thinks and is trying to do, right?
Yeah. So like on the day of the inauguration, he gives his inaugural speech. Then he goes down to Emancipation Hall and then speaks for like a good 20 to 30 minutes. Then after the luncheon, he goes to the Capital One Arena where he, talks to the crowd. He signs the executive orders, but he doesn't stop there. He goes back to the White House, and as he's signing executive orders, he's literally doing this back and forth with the press. And it was funny, right? Fox News' Peter Ducey, I think, asked him, like, do you have the letter that Biden wrote to you?
Right.
And he was like, what letter? And then he opens the desk, and he's like, oh, yeah, here's the letter.
Right.
But he doesn't stop there, right? Like, that's a lot. And he's 78 years old.
Right.
I just want to point that out. That's day one. The second day, he does, instead of Caroline Leavitt doing her press briefing, she cedes that to Trump, who does it himself. He goes to that, I believe it was the Roosevelt Room, but please forgive me if I'm wrong, where he takes, for like a good 30 to 40 minutes, he takes questions from the press. Doesn't stop there. The next day, he does an exclusive interview with Sean Hannity, and it was so long they broke it into two parts. So Trump is very much willing to talk to the press in a way that President Biden and his administration just they outright refused to do that. So I can imagine that even when Caroline is doing press briefings, we'll see some like surprise drop from Trump,
Sure.
who comes and engages with the press. Because I mean, he does love it. You can tell like he gets energy from going back and forth with the press, and it's not even like contentious or combative. Like he just loves talking and being questioned and being asked to give his thoughts and opinions.
And it's kind of how he became famous,
Yeah.
right? As he was appearing on all these TV shows,
Yeah.
even before politics. Well, that's good news for reporters, isn't it?
Actually, actually, yes. But to your point, right, the fact that like part of his well-known image comes from being able to use the cameras, use TV, use press. He knows how to get work done, but do it in a way that the American public sees it. And I think that was something the Biden administration just didn't know how to do either.
Yeah, Biden himself said it was an error not to put his name on the checks.
Yeah. So the press is happy we get, information from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if like Susie Wiles is happy about that.
Right, she may be less happy
Yeah.
about it. Thank you, Mabinty.
Thank you.
You can read Mabinty and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.